here?
Mom, they're up to something.
You picked the wrong house, fool!
Hey, Big Smoke! It's me, Carl! Chill!
CJ.
Man, can we just take the time out to think about this? The first Pokemon movie, Pokemon the first movie, ended up coming out, at least in the US, November 6th, 1999. At this moment in time, if that film was personified as an actual person and they were going through the United States school system, they would be a senior in high school at this point. That is... wow, I really had to get myself in check with that, which is just like... time has really passed, man. Time has really passed. Anyways, you all might be wondering why the hell I'm reviewing a movie that is so old and if I'm trying to just cash in on the Pokemon thing. Well, I'm actually not, and I had a few things to say about this. Not because it's my first time seeing it, but this is actually my second time watching it in theaters. I've seen this movie in theaters when it came out in 1999. I don't think I saw it the day it came out, but I just saw it recently. Right now while I'm recording this, it's November 1st, but my local theater actually had a special event going on where for only 2 nights, it was going to be like one night in October, and then this was the last night they were doing it. They were going to be showing Pokemon the first movie in theaters, and it was going to be the original theatrical cut. It had, you know, the beginning where it had Pikachu's vacation, and then it had the actual film itself. And I guess this isn't really a review, but it's more me asking and explaining why I think this movie might or might not hold up even after 17 years. So first off, I'll preface it with this. I respect Pokemon, obviously. I enjoy it, but I've never been a die-hard fan of it. And I think that's kind of due to the fact that when the Pokemon craze was just absolutely exploding, not the recent Pokemon Go craze, but when it originally came over to the US and people were freaking out about it, my parents didn't want to get me the cards because they were really expensive. I completely understand that now, seeing the prices on them. And I didn't have any game system, so I couldn't play any of the Pokemon games. So honestly, I always thought it was cool, but the Pokemon craze just kind of went over my... it didn't go completely over my head, but it kind of just like grazed my head, I guess you can say. Where I did like the series, I did like the show. The show was really where it was for me. However, even on top of that, I didn't really play the games and I didn't collect the cards. But I was enough of a fan when I was younger to go see Pokemon the first movie when it was in theaters, and I gotta say, Mom, if you're watching this, I am so sorry I made you endure that. I mean, I'm not saying the film was bad, but I'll preface it with this as well too. If you are a fan of Pokemon, or you enjoy Pokemon, or you like it, whatever it is, this movie, you're gonna enjoy it. And I actually will say, even after so much time, the movie is 17 years old at this point, it is still an enjoyable film. However, watching it, I was just like, my poor mom had to watch this with me. I'm so sorry, because really, if you are not a fan of the series itself, or you don't like it or enjoy it, this movie is not going to make anyone a fan. Now, this is really the only one I can review, because honestly, out of the Pokemon films, this is the only one I watched. I probably need to watch the others to get my own opinion, but when I talked to one of my friends who's quite a big fan of Pokemon, his opinion was he thinks this is the only good one. He didn't like any of the other ones, and he's seen all the rest of them. But I digress, we'll kind of go back to this here. The point is, I don't really want to objectively review the film because so many reviews have been done. It's a 17-year-old film at this point, but I'm looking at it from a 2016 point of view. And I'll say at the beginning, when they had Pikachu's vacation and all that stuff, it was presented in 4x3 form, which a lot of people were kind of laughing about. And I will say this got a lot of laughs from the audience, not only because it was a funny short at the beginning, but on top of that, it's just the pure 90s nostalgia and the pure form of 1999 anime cartoon just completely reeked off of this, and kind of in a good way, I would say. I mean, down to the fonts, the presentation of it, you even saw, the film grain and everything, because I'm sure they had, an original copy of it. They somehow had to, secure, I don't even know if it was a film copy or what, but point is, they probably secured, a copy that would have been played in theaters at one point, because they can't just, pop a DVD in and have that be. But I'm trying to say it was a authentic cinematic experience, and it was totally worth checking out. The funny thing is with this too, I have vague memories of most of this, because I have vague memories of, kind of the overarching theme of the film, and I have some vague memories of the actual, Pikachu's first film, Pikachu's Vacation and all that. I more specifically remember the Squirtle race that was in there, but the funny thing is, I remembered, all of the music, because every time I was hearing any of the songs that were played, I was like, I remember that, I remember that, I remember that. I remembered all of these songs, but the movie itself, it was hazy to me. I just couldn't remember it that well. I think the big thing here was too, I forgot the tactics they used to some stuff. Like, for example, on Pikachu's First Vacation, they had a lot of, the transitions between things here and there, and most of them, or even all of them, were really not needed. So, I wouldn't say it made me cringe, but I kind of sat in my seat like, this is making me kind of uncomfortable. But most of the theater laughed it off. Whenever any of those transitions came on, after about a second or two of them being on screen, people were just busting out laughing in the theater. And I think that's one big difference between this movie coming out in '99 and it coming out now. People were laughing at it a lot more, and it was kind of, they were laughing with the movie, but also laughing at the movie at the same time. There were just a lot more laughs, is what I'm trying to say. And this even transitioned into the actual film itself. Now, again, I don't really want to cover, the overarching theme, or I'm not trying to review the film itself. I'm just kind of talking about how it holds up to today's standards, and overall, I still think it held up pretty well. In fact, one of the most impressive things to me was, near the end of the film, I was just kind of looking at it and I was thinking, they made really good use of their on-screen time. By that I mean, I didn't feel like there was any unnecessary filler really outside of Pikachu's Vacation. Pikachu's Vacation, I feel like that had a good amount of filler because, well, one, it was, the cutesy little film before the film, but on top of that, then it had, all those transitions and everything, and it didn't really serve anything to the story itself. But the actual Pokemon film, I didn't feel like there was any filler material, and it made the hour and a half I was in the theater go by quite quickly. Now, I will say, also as an adult watching this, you notice a lot more cheese. You notice so much cheese that was in the series and in the film that you didn't notice as a kid. As a kid, everything was awesome, but just the dialogue, the way things were delivered, the jokes, like for example, at one point when Team Rocket is dressed up as Vikings, Ash says something along the lines of, I had no idea Vikings still existed, I thought they were in Minnesota. He says something like that.
I didn't know Vikings still existed.
They mostly live in Minnesota.
And the entire theater just erupted in laughter just because of how stupid that line was. And you don't realize a lot of this as a kid, but as an adult you see it, and I'll say this, if I was watching the film by myself, I'd be like, yeah, this, no. But watching it in a group, in a theater setting like that, it was great. And there was a lot more laughs that were to be had in there than there were in the theater in 1999, as I had repeated several times. I think maybe the best one was, I'll say this, the part that nobody laughed at. This right here, I won't say, see, I'm one of those people, I'm not afraid to get in touch with my feelings, right? And I've cried at media before, and I didn't cry at this, I didn't even have, wet eyes or anything, but I still felt sad. And the part that got everyone in the theater still was the part where Mewtwo and Mew are fighting, and then Ash goes in the middle to break it off, and he turns to stone, and then all the Pokemon start crying, and they start, their tears bring him back to life. No one was laughing at that. No one had a chuckle, nothing. The theater was silent at that part. So that scene right there still stands against the test of time. That is a sad scene in Pokemon history. But what really got me going was even after that, when Mewtwo's having a few of his dialogues, there was one guy who was next to us that was just laughing really hard at some of the things he said. And one of the lines in particular, I'm gonna have to quote it off IMDb here. Mewtwo said here, quote, "I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are," unquote. And I remember, like, people were laughing about that, and there were a few other things that got really all the big laughs, especially when all the Pokemon were fighting, where some of the characters were just like, Pokemon aren't supposed to fight like this. It's like, well, you fight with it. What do you do with Pokemon? But the point is, with that line, I remember I was sitting there in the theater, I'm just like, a imaginary cloned creature from a fictional cartoon anime universe understands life better than most people do in real life in 2016. My God. But I think the other best part of this was seeing the diverse audience. You had people like me who were, you know, in their 20s watching this, who grew up with Pokemon and they probably saw the Pokemon movie in theaters. You had people that were older than me. You also had kids there as well too, and maybe one of the coolest things was, I guarantee some of those parents had seen this movie when they were children, and then, you know, later on in life gotten married, had kids, and then they were bringing their kids to see this film, and everyone was entertained by it. Well, except there was one chick kind of, you know, in a row in front of us that I was talking to, and we were talking a bit before the movie, and then we watched it, and at one point, there was just one of those lines of dialogue. I was laughing really hard throughout the movie, but I ended up dropping a really loud Titus laugh. And this chick told me after the movie, she ended up telling me that the family and people in front of me, there was a guy there who was visibly pissed off at my super loud laughs, mainly the Titus one, because I said I had to drop a Titus laugh. She said, "Yeah, I noticed your Titus laugh. When that happened, he glared at me." Not me, but he glared at this chick. She said he glared at me, and I had to kind of like tell him with my eyes, he's not with me. Like, I'm not responsible for this guy's actions and his laughing. But overall, it was still a pretty good time. Now, overall, you know, after I've gone through all that, and I kind of touched up on it a little bit, but do I think this movie has still stood pretty well? I believe so. The thing is, though, you do have to be a Pokemon fan, or you at least have to have a respect or like for it. Again, this was never a movie that was to convert you into a Pokemon fan. This was something that was kind of made as a fan service for the fans. If you enjoyed the anime, or you enjoyed the card game, or you enjoyed the games, you would enjoy this film. And I still think that rings true to today. However, if you don't like any aspect of Pokemon, you're not going to like this film. But again, I'll say this, I am quite impressed at how well it held up. So, would I still recommend it if you like Pokemon at least? Yeah, I'd recommend actually revisiting this movie. It was pretty nostalgic to check out, and if you have it in a theater, like if a theater close to you has some type of special event, I'd highly recommend going to it. This event was like $5 per ticket, so totally worth it in my opinion. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on it. So far, it still holds up pretty well, I'd say. It's just, again, you kind of realize it had a lot of cheese to it, but if you can get past that fact, again, you're not watching Pokemon for a super high quality, in-depth anime that's gonna make you cry. You're watching Pokemon for Pokemon. But this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. And if you enjoyed this video, a like would be appreciated. And if you're thinking of nothing but, you know, Pikachu crying, you can dislike the video. It's all good.